Your world is becoming increasingly intelligent. Everything, from your phone to your toaster, seems to be getting a mind of its own. Not everyone is happy about it.
Because what's going to happen is robots will be able to do everything better than us. I'm including, all of us,
Two major players in the tech world are at odds over artificial intelligence. Supporters of AI say it is humanity's way to a brighter future, a tool that can help improve the quality of everything from your healthcare to your education. Skeptics fear that path will only lead to disaster, and that besides taking our jobs, the race for AI will eventually produce self-aware technology that learns and progresses millions of times faster than humans. Try to imagine it this way. Your eyes took tens of millions of years to evolve to where they are today. Now think of how far your camera has come in just a few decades. Who do you think would win in an eye test? The worry is that when AI no longer needs human input for its development, it'll progress faster than we can keep up, and it may not go the way we'd like. Doomsayers claim current research is edging us dangerously close to that reality. And when Pandora's box is opened, there's no going back. Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg have both built business empires relying on some form of AI technology. But the Tesla founder says Zuckerberg's understanding of the risks is limited. In turn, Zuckerberg has called Musk's doomsday revelations irresponsible. Zuckerberg and Musk are just two competitors in a race for AI that includes dozens of companies and governments, including many of the world's largest militaries. And in this race, there are no rules.
Well, joining me now from Washington is Christina Wong. She's a military analyst and Pentagon reporter for Breitbart News. Also in Washington, Rudy DeLeon. He's a former U.S. Deputy Defense Secretary and a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. Good to have both of you with us. Rudy, let me start with you, because AI is such a divisive subject, isn't it? On the one hand, it's going to make all our lives easier. On the other, it's going to take all our jobs. The machines are going to turn on the human race, killer robots everywhere. Why does it have such conflicting feelings?
I think it has conflicting feelings because it's a change in the way we've been doing business. Robotics, precision manufacturing, we've seen those for many years in the automobile industry. But now the next step, can you have commercial jets that are automatically piloted, some military technologies, the unmanned area vehicles. So we're at the beginning of a major change in the way that the technology works.
Yeah, and I think the point you raised about military technology is really interesting. This is where people become more polarized. I mean, when you move from talking about, I don't know, a fridge that can order you milk when you've run out of milk, to a fully automated combat drone which is able to carry out missions on its own. That's where the debate really raises its head about, how far down this road we should go.
I think it is worrisome, although I think we're a ways off from drones automatically firing by themselves. So right now we're at the very beginning where we're trying to sift through drone data. So there's hours, hundreds, maybe thousands of hours that analysts have to sift through that these drones are collecting. And so artificial intelligence can help us look through that data and we can teach machines to sort of look for ISIS targets or terrorist targets, trucks, people, patterns of life. And so in that way, AI can be quite useful.
Well, can it? Because surely somebody has to program or tell AI what a terrorist looks like or what an ISIS truck looks like. And therein lies one of the problems.
We're using the technology now because we're in 3 different places we can converse. This is a little bit like a sit-room conversation on the military side. But one of the things about the remotely piloted vehicles is that indeed there's a human in the loop. There's a human who's looking at the imagery, trying to look at information coming from the ground, and then the decision to use a weapon, it's the same kind of chain of command as would be for a military aircraft with a pilot on board. So There are humans in the loop. Where the technology goes, I think that's where the revolution is headed. But making sure that the command and control is very legitimate, that it's reliable, and that it's accountable, I think is one of the challenges.
Yeah, Christina, this is clearly a priority for the Pentagon, isn't it? The US military already looking at AI for the future of defense. In fact, the Defense Secretary, James Mattis, is visiting Silicon Valley. I know that you're going along on that trip with him. What is it that he's looking for?
So he will first go to the headquarters of Amazon, he'll go to Google, he'll meet with Silicon Valley leaders, and what he's trying to do is build ties between the Pentagon and Silicon Valley. The tech industry is far ahead of the Pentagon and government in terms of artificial intelligence, big data, and all sorts of other capabilities. And so what the Pentagon has to do is to build those bridges. It doesn't quite have the defense budget right now to create things from scratch, nor is that a good idea. So what they're doing is they're trying to work with tech companies, small ones, large ones, to sort of recruit them to help build technologies and bring those technologies into the Pentagon. So he will also be visiting the Defense Innovation Unit Experimental.
Yeah, Christina, I wanted to ask about this experimental unit, Defense Innovation Unit Experimental. It's pretty close to Google's headquarters, isn't it? 37 pilot projects. What kind of things are they looking at? Is it all really futuristic stuff?
Well, one project I know they're looking at is this thing called, I think, it's sort of, they look like binoculars, but they help operators, troops on the ground, train the sort of the muscles that they're using to think and to operate, and try to train them to actually move and work faster, shoot faster, operate faster. And so that's one of the things. I know that sounds a little scary, but it's so very cool things like that. Very experimental projects that might fail, and they might work. So it's part of this whole new area that the Pentagon's trying to do.
All of this sounds really efficient so far, but Rudy, what's really freaking people out is this idea that you can create artificial intelligence so intelligent, artificial superintelligence, which I know is what they're working towards, which could somehow become sentient. I mean, is that the stuff of sci-fi, or could there be a time when machinery can decide for itself whether to, for example, carry out an attack on an enemy combatant?
Well, those are pretty good themes for some of the Hollywood movies like Transformers that are coming out, but I'd say the Pentagon will take a much more sober path forward. Secretary Mattis, before becoming secretary, was a professor at Stanford, so he certainly knows what's across the street there on Sand Hill Road. Ash Carter, his predecessor from Harvard, also had really started up this lab. And we should also remember that former Defense Secretary Bill Perry was from the Silicon Valley before we even knew that name. I think the Pentagon is going to be step by step. There's going to have to be a human in the loop. And I think it's going to evolve. We've not yet seen what the end state will be, but we know that the Army, with one of their programs, the Future Combat System, really ran into some snags, and Secretary Gates canceled the program. So I think it's going to be step by step, and I think the human in the loop is still going to be decisive.
I think, in fact, it is official policy of the Pentagon, according to the former Defense Secretary, to never allow an artificial intelligence machine to decide whether, for itself, whether or not to kill a human being. But Christina, you see, are we not now in an era of an AI arms race of some kind, where other countries are moving ahead and developing this amazing technology, which means presumably that we can't be constrained by these parameters. We have to follow what our enemies are doing.
That is a great point. China is moving very aggressively into AI. They're investing in U.S. companies. They're investing just enough so that they don't trigger export review. The U.S. government is looking at that. They're trying to look at ways they can perhaps prevent that investment. Since 2012, China has invested, I believe, there's been 29 investors in AI companies since 2012. So China is definitely moving full speed ahead, and that's something that's something that the Defense Department was concerned about, and is prompting them to hurry up. They created a Project Maven, which is designed to jumpstart investment in AI and try to get those technologies moving in the Pentagon.
I want to ask both of you, because you're both taking a very cool, calm look at what could be available in the future, and I really appreciate that. But then you've got people like Stephen Hawking saying the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. Now, if one of the smartest men alive is saying that he's worried about that, I mean, Rudy, should we be looking at what really smart people are saying that this could lead to?
Well, again, I'll step back to say that this is, one step at a time. It is taking multiple streams of information, systems integration, and bringing it together in both a commercial as well as a national security context.
But is it developing alongside proper regulation? Is there going to be proper ethical and legal oversight of what's being developed?
The military chain of command is unique. There's nothing like that in the business world that is precisely the same. And as we know, our commanders in the field are accountable. For China, they bristle when you pull and look at the back of your iPhone, because what it says is that it's engineered in California, assembled in China. And so they are trying to develop that key skill on systems integration. I don't think they're there yet. It'll take some time, but they're certainly, as noted by Christine, in a very vigorous mode to catch up.
But if there is this AI arms race, isn't there a fear that countries like China and Russia will go headlong into developing technologies which could one day prove dangerous without the proper controls and oversight?
They're working hard to develop the capabilities, and I'm sure there's another group working just as hard to develop the counter capabilities.
Christina, Rudy talks about the parameters of a military development, but isn't one of the problems that this is moving far beyond the capabilities of the military and into the commercial sector? Aren't private companies taking the lead in this technology?
Yes, and that's something else that we have to address in government. There's quite a bit of cultural resistance. A lot of analysts don't want to outsource their jobs to computers, and understandably so. And there's that trust factor that you mentioned of allowing robots to make decisions. But thankfully, we're not there yet. I guess you can say thankfully, as in terms of jobs, but you're right. Technology is moving, far ahead. The tech industry is moving far faster than the Pentagon, and so this is something, that's really important for the Pentagon to start doing, and that's why you're seeing Secretary Mattis take a trip during his first year to a DUIX hub. It sort of shows the priority of integrating technology into the Pentagon.
Rudy, you were talking about keeping the human judgment in this new technology, so that there is always some kind of human control. The Pentagon said last year it was also interested in human-machine unity. They talked about, comparing it to Tony Stark's Iron Man machine, which I think sounds really exciting, where the human mind is in control. But taking it to the extreme, there's also talk about plugging these things directly into the human brain. I guess that means you can bypass boring things like buttons and levers and knobs and dials and all the rest of it. How far of this is science fiction, and how close are we to reality?
I think it's just starting, and it's not science fiction. It's now common to see commercials for self-braking cars in an emergency. I think we're going to see the impact of artificial intelligence first in the commercial world as jobs are eliminated in favor of machines that are more precise, and that then it will be a slower integration into the military because of that human factor with quality assurance and then the check and balance, the command and control being absolutely essential.
It's interesting that, a lot of think tanks have looked at this and talked about this and debated this. A report by the Hague Center for Strategic Studies said about artificial superintelligence, we concur with the majority of analysts who anticipate major, maybe even existential threats when non-human intelligence exceeds its human equivalent and turns into artificial superintelligence. Who will be Homo sapiens custodian or ambassador in this debate? Christina, if one of the things we're looking at is equipment, technology, which can make decisions much faster than the human can, aren't we into a realm where decisions are being made without proper oversight?
I think, well, it's important, I think, to have that oversight there. But as we talked about before, there's areas where it might actually be better if a machine can make a decision faster than a human. For instance, the Pentagon is also working on a program to track mobile missile launchers. Those are used now by North Korea. It's something that they recently obtained, and so what that does is that really shrinks the time to detect some sort of a missile launch. Perhaps we all know they're working very hard on getting a nuclear-capable ICBM that can hit the U.S. And so if you've got a computer that can detect the movement of a mobile missile launcher faster than a human, that's a very good thing.
Okay, guys, we're going to have to leave it there, but you've done a very good job of convincing me that the world may be a safer place and we're not going to be surrounded by killer robots. Thank you very much indeed for that, Christina Wong and Rudy Delion.